Order. Good evening, everyone. I call this October 25th, 2021 meeting of the Richfield Planning Commission to order. First, we have approval of the minutes of the Planning Commission and City Council work session meeting from September 27th, 2021. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, second. Thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. No. I mean, sorry. I'm here. Okay. Next, we have approval of the regular Planning Commission meeting minutes of September 27th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and I'll second. Any discussion on the meeting minutes of the regular meeting? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, next we have open forum, which is an opportunity for the public to address the commission on items not on tonight's agenda. To share during a meeting, you can walk in, call in live, or you can call in ahead of time or write in ahead of time. The number to call in if you're watching locally is 612-861-0651. 612-861-0651. Did we have any calls or emails ahead of the meeting, staff? For open forum?
We did not, Chair Quam.
Okay, thank you. And staff on the line, do we have any callers holding for open forum?
Chair Quam, we do not have any callers.
All right, thank you. Okay, so that takes us to approval of tonight's agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right, any discussion on tonight's agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion carries. Okay. The first item on our agenda is to consider a motion to reschedule the December Planning Commission meeting to December 13th, 2021. Staff, did you have a report?
Yes, thank you, Chair Quam. The regularly scheduled December Planning Commission meeting falls on Monday, December 20th. The Planning Commission has typically rescheduled that meeting in December to avoid the holiday and winter break time period. Staff recommends rescheduling the meeting to the second Monday of the month, which would be December 13th, 2021, as has been the custom for several years. That's all from staff.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion about moving that date? Any questions or discussion?
Do you know how many meetings we've had? It seems like more than half, about half of them have been canceled.
Commissioner Rudolph, yes, often that December meeting is fully canceled, but we do like to give people the opportunity because waiting from November until the end of January is a long time to not have the possibility of submitting an application. So we like to reschedule and offer the chance for December, but yes, probably at least 50% of them are fully canceled.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're ready for a vote. All in favor of moving the meeting to December 13th, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Okay, and that motion carries. Next, we have our public hearing to consider a proposed ordinance amendment to modify rules related to bicycle parking. Staff, could you read your report, please?
Chair Quam, I just had a question. Was there a motion and a second for moving the December meeting?
Yes. I think there was.
No,
Oh, there
we
wasn't?
just did a vote.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
That's okay. Thanks.
Okay, all right, do we have a motion?
I motion to move the meeting to December 13th.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. All right, thanks, Nellie.
I was kind of confused too because it was read as, it looked like it was a motion in itself.
All right, so next we have our public hearing. Public hearing to consider a proposed ordinance amendment to modify rules related to bicycle parking. Staff, could you read your report?
Yes, thank you. In line with efforts to reduce transportation emissions, which is the biggest share of emissions affecting climate change, and to improve local health and transportation accessibility, staff is proposing an update to the city's bicycle parking requirements. Staff reviewed neighboring cities' bicycle parking standards as well as requirements in Richfield. Our current standards required bike parking spaces at 5% of the number of required off-street auto parking spaces for any lot with over 20 auto spaces. This current standard does not distinguish between different land uses and ties bicycle parking to auto parking. Neighboring cities like St. Louis Park, Eden Prairie, and Minneapolis have more dynamic and updated bicycle standards. Differing land uses have different bicycle parking demands that are not necessarily correlated to vehicle travel. Updating standards in the city of Richfield and tailoring them to different land use types and sizes, instead of tying them to auto parking requirements, can assist in improved bicycle infrastructure. Planning for future transportation trends, like electronic bikes and other non-car transit, is vital. The city of Richfield can make small changes in order to support major shifts in a more accessible and lower emissions transit future. A work session was held with the Planning Commission and the City Council on September 27th, 2021. Staff heard from council members and commissioners that increased bicycle parking was important for the city, and heard that the code should be updated with new requirements. Based on the feedback from the work session, staff proposes the following revisions to the bicycle parking rules. For residential uses with 4 or more dwelling units, 1 space per unit would be required. If more than 10 spaces are required, 90% of those spaces must be located in an enclosed and secured area, such as a bicycle storage room. Residential bicycle storage rooms shall include access to electricity. No more than 75% of bicycle parking spaces may require the user to lift a bicycle into place. Restaurants or food and beverage service uses would require the greater of 4 spaces or 1 space per 1,500 square feet of gross floor area. For retail and similar commercial uses, the greater of 4 spaces or 1 space per 2,000 square feet of gross floor area would be required. For office or service uses, spaces equal to 10% of the total number of employees on site would be required. For schools, libraries, community centers, churches, and similar public uses, the greater of 4 spaces or 10% of the occupancy capacity of the building would be required. Bicycle parking in excess of the minimum requirement may be substituted for up to 5% of minimum off-street auto parking requirements. 4 bicycle spaces would be equivalent to 1 parking space for a car. Bicycle parking spaces may contribute to compliance with required bicycle parking when located adjacent to the property in question with approval of the Community Development Director. With permission of the city engineer, required bicycle parking may be located in the public right-of-way, and bicycle parking spaces may be located off-site within 200 feet of the site with approval of the Community Development Director. Our recommendation is to conduct and close a public hearing and recommend approval of an ordinance amendment modifying rules to bicycle parking. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any questions right now for staff on this before we open the public hearing? Commissioner
Kwan.
Pinn? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for staff. Actually, it's kind of a two-parter. I'm assuming that we define like what constitutes a bicycle parking space in other guidance. Is that correct?
Yes, we do have a definition for a bicycle parking space, and we have definitions for what a acceptable bike rack would be. So
Okay.
it has to touch the bicycle at 2 points and not just the front tire. It has to be like a front tire and the body.
Okay. And then my second follow-up to that is, for instance, for the rule about schools, libraries, community centers, offering the greater of 4 spaces or 10% of the occupancy capacity of the building. So if it's something that's like really high, like, you know, you can have 400 people at a library, would that really mean they would need like 40 spaces? Okay. Just double checking my math here. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Keneally?
Thanks, Chair. I have a question for staff. The other communities referenced in the report, do any of them have similar requirements for office and service uses to have secure storage areas like the residential requirements?
I believe Minneapolis has secure storage requirements for really large, like industrial business buildings and big offices. But I think that was the only one that I can remember off the top of my head that required like bicycle infrastructure.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff? I had a question, excuse me. I had a question about the final bullet where it's, well, hopefully you'll know where I mean, but where it says, with the permission of the city engineer, required bicycle parking may be located in the public right-of-way. Bicycle parking spaces may be located off-site within 200 feet of the site with the approval of the community development director. So my question is, I don't know, how would that, what would that look like if, what are scenarios where people could park in the right-of-way? Would that be in front of private residences, or what would that look like?
The thought on that one would be if there's already bike stanchions, bike racks in the boulevard, if they're publicly installed, then they could count towards that total requirement with approval.
I thought that was the second part of that, the second part of the bullet point saying bicycle parking spaces already within 200 feet could be counted, but the first sentence where it says you can be in the right-of-way, is that what it?
So the first part of the sentence is saying it can be located in the right-of-way. The second sentence says if there's not enough space on site, you could have an agreement with a neighboring parcel that X amount of bike parking spaces would be available adjacent to that property. So not in the public right-of-way, but within 200 feet of the property.
Okay.
Did that answer the question?
I'm a little muddy on it, but I think you're not saying that people can get bike rack on a right-of-way where they wouldn't want it, right? That would be an agreement between the private party and the developer?
If it's in the right-of-way, it would be an agreement with the city. If it's adjacent within 200 feet, it would be a private agreement with whoever else owns adjacent properties. Melissa, do you want to?
Chair Quam, are you asking if a property owner could install a bike rack in front of a single family residence and call that their bike parking?
I'm saying if they can't meet it within their space and it goes into the right-of-way, where could that right-of-way be?
Well, it has to be approved by the city engineer. What's envisioned here is, for instance, if the city had installed public racks along a bicycle trail, that a business would be able to take advantage of the fact that there's already a lot of bicycle parking in the area and wouldn't necessarily need to duplicate that parking.
Okay.
That's what this is trying to get at.
Okay.
But, if they're, we can relook at that wording before we take this to the city council if that's not clear to the commission.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Did we have any letters or callers or emails ahead of time, staff? No?
Chair Quam, no, we did not receive any.
Okay, and do we have any callers on the line, staff?
Chair Quam, we do not have any callers on the line.
Okay, so in that case, I guess I'll say the number and wait 1 minute, okay, even though we are not live streaming, but we are on channel 16, so there might be some people that want to call in. It's 612-861-0651. 612-861-0651. We'll just wait about 30 seconds.
Chair Quam, can I ask a question while we're waiting?
Sure.
It's a question for city staff. I'm wondering to see if you could help me understand how you derived at 4 spaces or 1 space per 1,500 for restaurants or food services. And like, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like, if you could give me an example of like how many spots that would be for Pizza Luce or something of the sort to get an idea. It like on first blush, it feels like a low number. I was just curious how that compares to neighboring cities or.
Yeah, Commissioner Stursa, we decided 4 spaces, which would be 2 standard bike racks for a restaurant. And then we did crunch some numbers. So, for example, local routes, which was topic at the last planning session, so it could be familiar. They would require, with almost 4,000 roughly gross floor area, 4,000 square feet, they would require about 1.9 spaces. So because that's less than 4, we would bump it up to 4, and they would require 2 bike racks or 4 spaces.
Thank you. That seems a little low to me.
Commissioner Sosa, I can't remember off the top of my head what other cities have. I don't have it in front of me. But I know that 4 spaces was kind of popped up a lot as just 2 bike racks is a pretty standard for like a small business. They could install 2 somewhere.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any callers on hold, staff?
Chair Kwan, we do not have any callers.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I'll make a motion that we close our public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on closing the public hearing? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The public hearing is closed. Now time for any discussion or further questions by commissioners on this item.
Chair Quam, I've got a question, or even a thought within the group.
Rudolph?
Do we know, I'm sure a lot of developments, apartments, restaurants will be in non-compliance of this if we approve this, and what happens, is it going to be an undue burden for somebody to create a 10 by 10 plaza if they're not in compliance, if they need to make a change to their building, whether it's an apartment or a restaurant, or a new person comes into the restaurant, opens a new restaurant in an existing building? How will that be handled?
Commissioner Rudolph, did you reference the transit plaza?
Correct.
So that's not changing. That is already part of the code.
Okay.
So we're not.
But, okay, so what about, even the rest of it, if a building's in non-compliance and they don't have enough spaces and, maybe they don't have room at this point because they've got, a specific amount of parking spaces, or, their lots are already designed out. How
So they wouldn't be required to do anything unless they were doing a redevelopment or needed new land use approvals. If they were required to bring the rest of the property into compliance with the zoning code anyway,
okay.
this is when it would kick in, and you would require bike parking as well.
Commissioner Rudolph, I'll just add, in general, the bicycle racks are not going to be large, so it hopefully won't be a real burden to add this, that we could find space. If there is a problem, the ability to use the adjacent right-of-way, I think, provides somewhat of a relief valve, and also the ability to work with your neighboring property owner to find space to accommodate the bike racks. If they weren't able to do that as part of a redevelopment or a new land use approval, then they would have to request a variance, just like you'd have to request a variance from any other section of the code that you couldn't meet.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And I did want to also follow up on Commissioner Sturza's question. I did double check Minneapolis's regulations, which we referenced quite often as we prepared this ordinance. And for restaurants and coffee shops, they require 3 spaces. So we've actually, as of right now, required more.
Other questions or discussion? Yeah, Nellie?
I just wanted to note one more thing. The city still does have a bike rack cost sharing program. So small businesses are encouraged to apply. We can help cover the, I think, 50% of the cost of standard bike racks.
Wonderful, thanks for sharing that. All right, looks like we might be ready for a motion, or did you have something more? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank staff for putting this together. It, I think, really reflected the work session conversation that we had. And I think that this really it takes Richfield, it shows that Richfield is taking other modes of transportation seriously. And I appreciate the work that went into creating this. And with that, I can make motion.
Sure, go ahead.
Of course, the language is not right in front of me. I should have thought of that. I make a motion to approve an ordinance amendment modifying the rules related to bicycle parking.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The motion carries. All right, so that's the end of our public hearing, and that brings us to liaison reports. This part can be, as I've said before, more informal. You don't have to go through the chair if you don't want to. So, Community Services Advisory Commission.
No report.
Thank you. City Council? No report. Okay. Housing and Redevelopment, or HRA?
The HRA met earlier this month and revamped or approved a second agreement with the Woodland Terrace Cooperative to make some improvements over there. Sounds like it's a really cool partnership that's happening between the city and the cooperative. And then they also heard an overview of tax increment financing districts in the city. And I strongly suggest anyone who hears the terms but doesn't quite understand everything that's happening in the city, like there was a presentation at the end of the meeting that I thought was pretty informative that kind of goes over the districts in the city and their status.
Thank you. So there was a TIF demonstration, or TIF presentation at the end of the HRA meeting?
Yeah, there was they had to accept the Richfield Housing and Redevelopment Authority Tax Increment Financing District Status Update.
Okay.
I sense that there was some formality to it, but in that presentation, there was discussion of the various districts.
Nice, thank you. Okay, next is Transportation Commission.
No report.
Thank you. Sustainability Commission?
Sorry. Minor report. We have citywide trash hauling. Rumor has it, right? And that's really all that's going on there. So just ironing out the wrinkles of that.
Thank you. Okay, that's the end of our liaison reports. Now we have our city planners report. Staff?
Thank you, Chair Quam. I'll just mention, hopefully you all know that there is a work session tomorrow night. It's a continuation of our discussion of the missing middle housing and compliance for our low-density single-family residential districts with our comprehensive plan. So hopefully you've had a chance to review those materials and you'll be able to participate tomorrow. If you are unable to attend, please feel free to send us comments by email. And then I also did want to mention the 494 project briefly. MnDOT has submitted to the city their packet that requests municipal consent for the project. This is the project that will redistributes traffic on 494 and changes the access points in Richfield and Bloomington as well as farther west. So now we've begun the official review process for that. There was an open house 2 weeks ago, Wednesday, that was well attended. That information will be posted online if you're interested in seeing the designs for this project one, which includes the work in Richfield. Also, we'll be working, MnDOT is putting together, with the help of a consultant, a visual quality manual, a supplemental visual quality manual. And Commissioner Keneally has agreed to sit on that committee and hopefully provide some input that will help with the design and the aesthetics surrounding this project to make sure that it really is reflective of our community and the people that live here, and make sure that not only are these transportation projects going to serve vehicles, but also pedestrians and bicyclists in a friendly way, in a welcoming way that makes it feel pleasant for all of us to travel in this corridor. So thank you to Commissioner Keneally for that, and watch for more information in coming months. The City Council will be asked to consider municipal consent in February. And that's it.
Thank you. Our next regular Planning Commission meeting is November 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. in the City Council, in the council chambers. Anything else? Nope. All right, thanks, everybody. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Can I make a correction to the date for our next planning commission meeting?
Pardon me?
Was there a correction to the date? Isn't it December 13th for our next planning commission meeting?
No.
It is
That's,
canceled.
we moved the December 20, late December 1 to December 13th.
So we still have our November one.
Oh,
That-
yeah. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we have November 22nd, and then after that, we have December 13th. Both at 7 o'clock here. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, or is there any discussion on adjourning? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say no. The motion carries and we are adjourned. Good night.